Um, Hi, everyone. The first or call to order, the first action item is to approve the minutes from our last meeting on the 22nd. Has anybody have any comments that they want to make regarding those minutes? All right, hearing no comments, consider the minutes from August 22nd approved. Then the first agenda item is introductions. Abby, is that to the design team or for everyone? What were you hoping on that?
Did you just want to introduce your team, or do you want everyone who's on the committee to introduce themselves?
I think it'd be helpful if everyone on the committee introduce themselves. I think it's our first time all meeting, might be helpful.
Sounds great.
Yeah, okay, you could hear that. Good.
I'll start off. I'm Justin Boig, local resident. I've been on this committee since its inception, I think. And I'm the chair. Is there anybody else on video call from the committee that wants to go ahead before we turn it over to the people that are in person?
Sure, I can go next. Erin Summers, Vice Chair. I've only been on this committee for a few months, but Plan Commission member for about a year and a half, and various other Parks Commission and Arts Committee preceding that. 14 years as a Middleton resident.
Thanks, Aaron. Anyone else online? Okay, Abby, why don't you go around in the room then?
All right, Erica first. I'm Erica Pollock. I'm coming from the Parks Recreation Forestry Commission. I've been on there for 2 years and I've lived in Middleton for 7.
Ken?
Yeah, Ken Market, I'm with liaison with the commission on moving.
I'm Jan Martin, a citizen rep. I've lived in Middleton for 40 years.
Phillips, I'm here representing the Middleton Public Library.
And Kevin?
I'm Kevin Spittler. I'm a 17-year resident of the city and I'm a mayoral appointee.
That's all the committee.
All right, I will go next. My name is Nate Day. I'm with SCH. It's also working on the project. I am managing the project. I'll hand it over to Jeff.
And I am Jeff Mathis, the electrical engineer. I'm part of SCH's team on this project.
I'm Chase Hendricks, mechanical engineer with SCH.
And I'm Andy Lyons. I work for Epstein Ewan Architects, a partner on the project. I've been with EUA for about 8 years. I do communications and community engagement, and the Middleton resident as well since 1979.
Paul Reisliger, architect with Epstein Ewan Architects, also a Middleton resident for probably about 22 years. And have been at EUA for about 12 years and have been involved with this project since probably before COVID.
Bob, are you?
I am. I'm Bob Cost. I'm an urban designer with SCH. I was the project manager for this project earlier and am now semi-retired.
And John.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Tucker. I'm a pre-construction executive here at Findorf. And I'm fairly new. I wasn't involved pre-COVID, but I've gotten to look at all the things that you put together prior and then what your new journey is right now. So I'm really happy and excited to be a part.
All right, thanks all. Next agenda item is a presentation draft by the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. I'm assuming you're leading it.
I can see the report on screen.
I stopped share, so you should have permission to share from the Zoom now.
Is it usually on the top? Isn't it?
It's usually on the bottom, a little green up arrow. I know you're a Teams person. Sorry for confusing you with my Zoom.
Again, this is Jeff Mathis, the electrical engineer that performs the electrical assessment in the provided assessment. So I will just go through the different buildings and kind of summary of it. Starting with City Hall and going through the electrical distribution, power distribution in the facility. A lot of the infrastructure is original to the building. I provided a picture there of the incoming switchboard. Okay. Oh, so yeah, people can see this. Okay, yeah, good idea. Through that. So here we have a picture of the incoming switchboard that is dated. It's getting to the point where doing modifications or upgrade to that panel would be getting expensive. To find those breakers, if you can, the cost of them would be more expensive than maybe a modern market breaker that you could get in a modern switchboard. Also, I found with the configuration of the service itself, normal nowadays is that where you have your meter, then your service equipment, the customer owned equipment, where in this configuration, I didn't include a picture of that, but you have an incoming service disconnect switch that's customer owned or the city of Middleton. Then you have the utility owned meter. Then you have the switchboard here again being customer or city of Middleton owned, which is not a configuration that is really allowed anymore on any new installations, so that any changes to the electrical distribution, you'd want to correct that. And with the age of the electrical distribution equipment, I would recommend that be replaced as a part of it. But some kind of the key points in moving down to the panel boards throughout the facility, they are all appear to be the original to the facility, except for there was one panel that was newer newer, but still was around 2000, I believe, that would need to be reviewed to see if you'd want to replace it as part of other projects, but does still have a fair amount of life left in it because of the fact that it's in a very temperature controlled place, not around high humidity and things of that nature. Excuse me. For then going into the lighting, when interviewing the city staff, there were limited issues reported. Some areas where maybe some task lighting could be improved in some of the office areas. But there was a mix of LED lighting and traditional. So as part of other projects, the opportunity to look at replacing those with LED lighting. And then areas were reported to where the consistency of the lighting could be improved, adding some dimmers, things of that nature, and look at daylight sensors as well as to when you have that, looking at energy efficiency when there's areas that have lots of windows and the lighting could be turned down to adjust with that daylight. And then going through just the low voltage systems, low voltage meaning like security, networking, things of that nature, that there were some conference rooms that were mentioned that could have some improvements done to them. There was one example conference room that could be used as kind of a template or example to try to replicate. And also the chambers here, the council chambers were discussed as trying to figure out a better implementation so that the public had a little bit better presentation for them of how they can feel comfortable in that chamber area. But also then the picture here I have of there's opportunities for improving kind of the networking layout and allocating some dedicated spaces for the security and networking infrastructure, not only just for optics and the way it looks, but also from a security aspect, that it's good to have that type of infrastructure in a more secured and dedicated space. Then moving on to the next building, which I have in here as the library. We went alphabetical. With that, this facility, oh, and then just to take a step back to the city hall, the evaluation also took into account the capacity of that incoming service, and it was fairly low utilized. So when we are looking here at the electrification of the HVAC, that there was plenty of capacity to handle that based upon, what levels they do, because we'll go through the levels 1, 2, 3 with that, or the level 2 would be more just sheer electrification that would have a larger electrical demand increase. Whereas the level 3 that was looking at more of the geothermal aspect would have a lower increase in electrical load. And then another aspect to the electrical infrastructure, when you have to account for, when you're looking at, say, adding your solar photovoltaic solution to this, is that is considered an additional source of incoming power. And so you have to look at, you want your bus of your, trying to get, not to get too complicated here, but you have to make sure that your incoming switchboard can handle the existing utility feed and also your photovoltaic energy that's coming through there. So that infrastructure did have the capacity to account for that. And you may need to make some adjustments on the utility protection end of it. But in summarizing all of it, it does have the capacity and ability to support the increase in electrical load, as well as we look at photovoltaic or other solutions of that nature. So now we can move on to the library, which oh, sorry, I've not been paying attention very well. Maybe if.
Yeah, go ahead, Drew. Got a question.
Yeah, this is Drew Montour. I'm the IT manager for the city. And I was just curious, in that evaluation for the electrical condition, was there an evaluation also done for backup power, i.e. diesel or any of that nature?
There was not. So one thing that was mentioned that there was wanted to look at what was powered and identifying what was powered from that backup generation. And I did not include that in this draft report. I can make sure to make some adjustments in the final to do a more thorough review of that.
Okay, because as far as from City Hall, it's the main hub for our networking equipment, and and our primary ISP source. So having that evaluated as well would definitely be beneficial.
Yep. All right. I will. So I know one aspect was there was talk of the fact that like the 911 and critical services is not in this facility. Is that correct? So
That
there
is
was some
correct.
aspect of, but yes, I understand the need for the networking equipment to make sure that that is maintained. So I will definitely account for that in the final report.
Great, thanks.
All right. So now if there's no other, so where do I see when there's hands raised?
It'll be a yellow.
Yeah, okay. All right. So now to move on to the library building. That building had a much more modern electrical infrastructure in it. And here I have a picture of it. I can get to it on my end. And this system, or the switchboard there, does support more modern breakers, which that actually this picture was able to zoom. If it was larger, there has been upgrades to the library that support the modern breakers. So there's no issue of having additional cost of some legacy breakers in there. And so if we go through my assessment there, all the infrastructure there was relatively modern, and there is plenty of life if it maintains the current conditions that they're in, and relative in if there's any maintenance that would be done to periodically just verify that there hasn't been any issues. This also had what I would consider a fairly excessive capacity to this. And I take a more pragmatic approach to the electrical distribution than some other consultants may, where if there were opportunities where this would be electrical upgrades were included in some projects, I would do an evaluation as to the cost benefit of looking to downsize that service, since it's looking like it's, around 20 to 25% utilized. And you can have some significant cost savings by going down to, say, an 800 amp service from a 1200 amp, and still have plenty of capacity, but then you have a smaller form factor of the equipment, takes up less space, you have smaller wire size, which also it would have a cost savings with not having to and pay for all that. And then, with the cost of material and looking at that increase over the past few years, could end up being a cost savings that could fund potentially more other items, to look at it that way. Here again, then has plenty of capacity, as I said, to support any electrification of loads there. When it comes to the lighting, that facility had LED upgrades back in 2019. Would want to just evaluate some of the office spaces to see if there is any opportunities to improve some of the comfort for office staff by adding dimmers and some daylight sensing there, because there are a lot of windows there that provide a lot of good natural light. Looking at the low voltage system, the network equipment, there was one of this Rescue Star, which was some critical networking equipment that was in a shared space that would definitely need to look at relocating that and having a more dedicated space and making sure that that remains up, because that was a rather important piece to the city. And then here again, looking at similar to this city hall, looking at any audio video opportunities to improve some of the community spaces down there. Questions on that? I'll move on to the last one, the senior center. And the senior center did have, actually, pretty much the whole entire building had very modern electrical equipment in it, and also the capacity here again was substantial to add more loads through the electrification of HVAC. And with that, the panel spaces, there was plenty of spares as well, just relatively low cost item, but you wouldn't need to add additional panels to support additional equipment that you would be adding, which I didn't cover in the other buildings, but some of those did have full panels that you would need to add additional panels to support some of that. Moving along to the lighting, that also the senior center was similar to City Hall, where there was a mix of LED and traditional lighting. So that would be something to look at, kind of the same old, same old. Moving on to the low voltage systems, it was noted that there was security video recording, but no alarm system is what I had noted. And so you need to look at what would be adequate for that space. And if in fact they would want to go to some type of fob for access control on doors and of that, so they could have easy control of access to certain areas. And I believe that completes the electrical assessment. So then I will pass it over to Chase that will go through the mechanical.
Question.
Oh, sorry.
That's a remodeled building. Is the original electrical wiring in there, or has that been all remodeled when they remodeled the building?
I did not have access to the information as if what the condition of if the wires were replaced or not.
Okay.
So that is something that if needed, I could reevaluate and look at that more. So one thing that when it comes to electrical infrastructure, just in general, when you're talking about panels and switchboards and things, they have not improved much and maybe gotten less because there's less copper and things of that nature in the equipment itself. And so they're less robust nowadays because they design it just to last as long as their shelf life. It's not like they over engineered it like they did. But one thing that has got a lot better is wires, because of the insulation on them are much better. So that actually is a very good point, Ken, to look at the wiring of that, because the older wire does have a tendency, if it, depending upon the style, if it's like the fabric type, the insulation can dry out and crack as you go to use it. So that is definitely something that should be included.
And
in
the second issue there in the senior center is that if they pass the new state codes, that we're gonna have to upgrade our kitchen. And they are having electrical issues of constantly blowing fuses in the kitchen.
Mhm.
That's just a minor point, but
Yeah,
it's an old
is-
building with old electrical wiring.
And
It's
I
kind of a
did note that, and that is, yeah, when you're blowing fuses, you have too many items on one circuit,
Yeah.
too many outlets. So you would just add a circuit to that and do some minor updates to that. It's not and noting the changes to the kitchen were more from a plumbing aspect and potentially ventilation than it was electrical, because sorry if I'm not in front of the mic here, but yes, the effect on the electrical aspect was rather limited in scope, was my opinion.
Right. Chase Hendricks here. I'll be going over the HVAC and plumbing. So to start out, I'll kind of summarize for the HVAC. We've provided 3 different levels of optional upgrades. So the first level is going to be replacing or upgrading the current equipment and replacing maybe in kind with a newer unit that will fit in the same spot and connect to the same duct and pipe connections. But so that would still be using a lot of the same type of equipment and wouldn't provide full electrification of the HVAC system, but would provide some efficiency upgrades. And level 2 would consist of more extensive changes to the HVAC system. So this option would be a much higher cost option than level 1, but would provide more significant energy savings, but would include getting rid of all the gas-fired equipment, like getting rid of the boiler systems and replacing it with a variable refrigerant flow system. So it would be all refrigeration. It would be all 100% electrified. And the third level is one step above level 2 in regards to efficiency, but also higher cost. So the level 3 upgrades would consist of removing all gas-fired equipment and replacing it with a geothermal heat pump system. So those are the basis of the 3 levels as we go through the report. And these levels effectively just applied to the HVAC systems. However, they would have impact on electrical service and things like that as well.
Chase, would you be able to just briefly walk through what the current condition is, or is that what you're getting into?
Yep, that's next.
Okay, perfect. Sorry.
Yeah, so that was kind of the overview of what I'll be referring to when I refer to like level 1, 2, and 3 in these recommendations. So yep, that's coming up here. So the yep, oops, sorry about that. Okay. So starting here with the city hall, we have existing boilers, non-condensing boilers, 2 array pack, 500 MBH, located in the basement, and they appear to be working well, but they are slightly past their predicted service life as they were installed in the 2002 renovation. So the boilers can continue to work as designed for a while, but in the relatively near future, they may need to be replaced. So level one would be replacing these existing non-condensing boilers with higher efficiency condensing boilers. So this would allow for a lot of the existing infrastructure of this system to remain, with the exception of maybe making some minor changes to zoning by adding or removing some of the VAV boxes to provide better comfort throughout the building. And moving on to level two, we'd also be removing the boilers, but we'd be removing the entirety of the boiler system, which should include all the existing piping and much of the ductwork. Some of it can probably be salvaged for the new system, but basically we'd be replacing the boilers with variable refrigerant systems. So those systems include essentially outdoor condensing units that would be tied via refrigerant to indoor fan coils, air handlers, smaller air handlers, and potentially individual cassette units, ceiling cassette units in individual offices. So with this option, again, fully electrifies the HVAC system, but it's a substantial cost increase compared to the replacement level one option. And in level three, in the boiler system, we'd again be removing the complete system, boilers, pipes, pumps, everything. And we would be able to salvage some of the ductwork, but in this type of system, we would need to provide a new geothermal vertical ground loop on site. As we get later in the report, I can go over potential options for locations of those, but essentially the parking lots adjacent to the buildings would likely be enough, but further investigation needs to be done to determine if there's enough area, essentially. So these systems in level three, I'll be going over some pictures of what the typical units look like. But again, for this system, we would need the geothermal ground loop. But inside the building, there would be various heat pumps in the basement, and those heat pumps would be generating hydronic, chilled, and hot water that would be distributed throughout the building to fan coils and the other types of zone level equipment that we'd include. Moving on to the pumps in this system, so these levels, same levels apply, just focusing in on the pumps. The existing boilers do have primary pumps associated with each boiler that are, again, past their expected service life, but are still functioning. You can see there is some corrosion started, so those might need replacement in the near future. So with option one, we'd recommend replacing those pumps with the new boilers. But we could keep on the left here the system pumps, which are newer and would still be appropriate for the system at level one. Moving to level two, as I mentioned, the boilers and pumps that come out. So there would be a whole new system of refrigerant that would not require any of that. And level three for the geothermal, again, boilers and pumps would be completely removed for that new system. And looking at the air handlers, air handler one in the basement, room B10, is a unit that was installed in the 2002 renovation. It serves much of the west end of the basement and the first floor. It's configured as a constant and variable volume. Or sorry, this one is a variable volume operating unit. And there's a second air handler in the basement that was that was installed a little bit, or it actually was also installed in the 2002 renovation. So the system appears to be working well, but it's a little bit past the expected service life. And regarding the levels as they apply to the air handling units, essentially level 1 would be remove the existing air handling units and air cooled condensing units and replace with new ones that will be more efficient and provide new high efficiency variable volume VAV boxes as needed too, and I'll get into that in the next section. And the level 2 recommendation also includes complete removal of these air handlers and replaced with smaller, kind of more modular zone level fan coils for the VRF heat pump system. And similarly with level 3, with the geothermal system, we would be removing the air handlers and replacing with heat pumps in the basement, as well as providing new glycol pumps that would be pumping to the geothermal loop, and all these zone level fan coils, which would be similar to the level 2 option. So the air handler in the basement go away, be replaced with the refrigerants or the geothermal system. And similar with the fan coil unit, same thing, basically everything, a lot of the same kind of concepts apply. It's just a smaller zone level unit. Single zone, I should say. And moving on to the powered roof ventilators, the exhaust fans. In the building, there are 3 powered rooftop ventilators serving the locker rooms, restrooms, and first floor restrooms and west restrooms, and they appear to be original to the building, and they effectively are doing the expected job that they're doing. But I would recommend replacement just based on the age for the level 1 option. Level 2 option, the exhaust fans would be removed, and we'd replace the fans with the energy recovery ventilator. So the energy in the outgoing exhaust air would go through a heat exchanger, and that energy be exchanged with the incoming outside air to feed the system. So we would see a significant efficiency improvement by providing systems like that. And there are multiple options that can be inside or on the rooftop of the building for these type of energy recovery ventilators. And the same replacement exists for level 3. So the level 3, the geothermal system, we would still replace it wouldn't be necessary for it, but it is an efficiency upgrade. I would also recommend replacing the existing existing fans with energy recovery ventilators in this level as well. And the computer room air conditioning unit serving the electronics room in the basement. This equipment appears to be in good condition, and it's probably several years old, so it has several years left of the expected service life. So I would recommend for the level 1 upgrade, where we're not changing the system wholesale, we can keep this unit and simply just replace the filter and clean the ductwork as kind of normal maintenance. The level 2, we'd want to provide a new unit that would be connected to this variable refrigerant system. So it could be a very similar looking unit. It could be replaced in the same spot, just connected via a different refrigeration circuit. And the level 3, kind of the same deal here. We would replace it in place, but instead of being connected to the new refrigeration circuit, it would be connected to the new geothermal system. Moving on to the variable air volume boxes. There are currently VAV boxes with hot water reheat coils serving all the zones in the building. The one part about this system I wanted to mention is that it does only run in the winter, so we are limited in how much like level of comfort we can provide, because when we allow the variable air volume, the reheat portion of it, to run in the summer, we can reheat it to prevent overcooling in spaces. And in general, these boxes, I didn't get to inspect many of them, but they based on the condition of some of them that I did see and the installation plans that we have, they do appear to be in fair condition, but are nearing the end of their expected service life. They are. It also has been noted that some of them are non-functional and some have leaky valves or coils, as you can see in the picture there. So any instances like that, we would certainly replace on a level 1 upgrade. But as a whole, the majority of them would stay the same. Level 2, all the VAV boxes would be removed and essentially replaced with the VRF fan coil units, and we would also provide probably additional units to have any number of desired zones throughout the building. And again, in this scenario where we would try to reuse whatever ductwork we could to reconnect those new fan coil units to them. And for the level 3, the geothermal option, we would be removing all the VAV boxes, and we'd be providing new fan coils that would be connected to this geothermal hydronic system. And again, we'd salvage what ductwork we could. And speaking of ductwork, just the next section, just kind of restating that fact of we'll try to salvage any ductwork where it's feasible, but some of the options might require a wholesale replacement of a lot of it. Their next section is fin tube radiation. There is fin tube radiation at the perimeter of the building in many of the rooms. So for the level 1 recommendation, we can keep pretty much everything as is, unless there's a significant change in zoning. If that's desired, we can add additional or remove some. Level 2 is the variable refrigerant heat pump option, so that in that scenario we would remove all the fin tube at the perimeter, because the heating would be primarily coming from the VRF fan coil units. And the third option, we'd also remove the hot water fin tube radiation throughout the building, and it would be replaced with the fan coils that are on the geothermal system. And looking at the plumbing equipment and systems in the building, the domestic water does have a water softener and an electric tank style water heater with circulating pump. And the system as a whole appears to be in satisfactory condition with no major issues. The water heater was replaced in 2016, and there was also a sump pump installed in 2023. So both relatively new equipment there. So for the plumbing recommendations, I did not include different levels, as they don't directly relate to the levels of the HVAC options, but can go through recommendations here. So the water heater, like I said, is installed in 2016, so it will need replacement in the next 5 to 10 years. So depending if the depending on when the design is actually done, we might recommend replacement of it, and a replacement with a hybrid electric heat pump water heater would greatly increase the efficiency. So again, this is this independent system, but it uses heat pump technology to extract heat from the room and use it as kind of a preheat for the hot water system. It's a good way to kind of cool the space too if it gets if it tends to get hot when in the summer when everything's being utilized, but there wouldn't be any control over that. It would just kind of it'd be cool waste heat, or cool wastes, and like similar to waste heat. But so the other note was building is in need of ADA restrooms. So along with that renovation, we would obviously provide ADA plumbing fixtures. Replacing another point in the sustainability goals of the city is reducing water consumption. So one option to do that is replacing the traditional urinals with waterless urinals to reduce the overall water consumption, as well as reducing the wastewater leaving the building. And to further reduce water consumption, there is potential for a rain capture system to be installed in the building. So it would essentially we'd modify the roof drain, the storm drain system, connect it to the roof drains, and connect it to a tank that would be treated, chemically treated water that would be a non-potable system that would be exclusively for like water supplied to toilets and urinals and things. And additionally, it's noted that more electric water coolers with bottle fillers are desired throughout the building. So moving on to the library. Sure. All right, well, I'll speed this along and kind of in the effort to not go over time, I'll remain pretty high level here for the rest of these. So in the library, there are fairly new boilers that are high efficiency condensing boilers. So the level 1 recommendation be essentially to keep those boilers and repair make any repairs to the existing condensing units they're having issues, and replace any VAV boxes that are non-functional or leaking. And level 2 is would be removing the boilers and replacing with the VRF system that I had described. And level 3 again would be removing all the boilers and replacing with the geothermal system. And similar to the city hall, there are existing pumps that serve the heating hot water system. In the level 1 recommendation, we would keep those pumps. Level 2, we would remove with the boilers and all the system pumps. We would take those pumps out. And level 3, again, with the geothermal, these pumps would be removed and replaced with pumps primarily for the geothermal system. And again, with similar to the city hall options, the level 1 options for the air handling units that serve the building would be to remove them and replace with newer variable volume, higher efficiency air handlers. Level 2 is removing the air handling units and replace with the smaller fan coil units that can be distributed to each zone, and same concept with level 3 in the geothermal system. And the fan coil system, very similar, kind of can be, I won't go through all the details in that, but similar to the air handlers and the variable air volume boxes, VAV boxes. The level 1 recommendation, we can keep the majority of them and just move or replace as needed for zoning purposes. Level 2, they would all be removed for the VRF heat pumps, and level 3, they would all be removed for the geothermal heat pump system. Again, ductwork will salvage as feasible. Fin tube radiation, level 1, you can keep the existing units. Level 2 would be removed, and level 3 would be removed. And the plumbing condition appears to be in the systems appear to be in good condition overall. There are few notes that the let's see, that the staff have communicated low pressure issues with the domestic water system. So I would recommend it if it's needed. A couple things can be done. The biggest step to improve that would be install a booster pump to increase the system pressure, but it may just be as simple as kind of redoing some of the piping and increasing pipe sizes to allow for more pressure in the system. All right, so moving on to the senior center. So the senior center is served by several furnaces throughout the building. Furnaces are for the most part fairly new and replaced recently and in good condition. However, there are complaints about comfort and not being enough zones, because since they are residential style furnaces, they do just have one zone. So there's one thermostat per unit. Now the level 1 recommendation I have here would be to provide some additional standalone air-cooled heat pumps to address the zoning issues. So we could still keep all the system, but just add in some smaller units to increase comfort. And then going with the level 2 and level 3 recommendations, again, the level 2 recommendation, similar to the previous buildings, we'd be removing all the furnaces, getting rid of the gas-fired equipment, and replacing with the VRF fan coil heat pumps. And similar in level 3, we'd remove the furnaces and provide fan coils with the geothermal system. The plumbing systems appear to be in decent condition, with the exception of the staff have communicated that there are sewage backup issues at times. So to combat that issue, I would recommend installing a backwater valve on the sanitary system leaving the building, so we can prevent any backups in the future. And then in addition to that, I would recommend the waterless urinals, as stated before, as well as catching rainwater to be reused for a supply to the toilets in the building, and adding electric water coolers with bottle fillers, similar to the other buildings as well. All right, and coming into the summer here, I can just kind of point out the types of equipment for each level. So level 1 is basically the same equipment type, so no real changes. Level 2 are the variable refrigerant volume heat pumps with like an office level zoning option would be to provide the image on the left here shows an example of a ceiling cassette unit that could be provided in individual offices to provide individual temperature control. And then in areas where we have more than one room per zone, we can connect it to a fan coil unit as shown on the right here that would be concealed above the ceiling, distributed with ductwork. And then in the middle here, we have a example of the outdoor condensing unit that would be associated with these systems. And level 3 upgrade is the geothermal option. So on the zone level, it's pretty similar, similar style ceiling cassette units that can be utilized and fan coil units. The image at the top here is example of the actual heat pump that would go in the basement that would be connected to the geothermal field. And finally come down here, I just have a map showing potential areas, parking lots between the parking lot between City Hall and Senior Center and the parking lot for the library. Could be potential areas for the geothermal fields. This is the approximate square footage of those, and it is in line with a typical system of that size. So potentially we could utilize the parking lot in between City Hall and Senior Center for the whole geothermal system. We might need to use both of these areas, but as I said before, further investigation would need to be done to determine those exact requirements. Right, that's all I had for mechanical and plumbing. Yes.
Question number one is if you go electrical in level 2, how much of a change in the power grid you're gonna need for electrical demand for this new city center or whatever?
Yeah, it would increase. I don't know if we have a specific number on the level of increase, but we can certainly, because that is the biggest part of the level 2 upgrade. With using that VRF system, there's going to be a larger service required for that than the geothermal system. So the geothermal will probably be potentially an upgrade required, but the level 2 variable refrigerant flow system certainly I would think need a upgrade, because it would require generally probably twice the capacity of the geothermal system as far as electrical.
And then is the geothermal system, is that a closed system or do you discharge water?
It would be a closed system, so it would be there would be a glycol loop that would go from the heat pump in the basement to the geothermal field, and then there'd be the condenser and heat exchanger within the heat pump that would generate hot and chilled water to distribute throughout the building, and it would all be closed systems.
What chemicals would you have in that water? Because I got a concern, you're awful close to the zone of capture for the city wells on the hill up here.
Yeah. So yeah, it would be a glycol system. I don't have the percentage exact, but
did you investigate how close you are to the wells and if you're in the capture system of those wells?
no, that investigation still needs to be done.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for all that. I had a couple questions or comments. I was curious if we had a total cost estimate for each of these proposed solutions for each building, and maybe a payoff, like how soon, due to the update or the adjusted cost for the second and third option, would we be able to recoup or would the city be able to recoup the money due to the upfront costs? I was wondering if you could provide a table for that. And then a couple times you mentioned like the boilers are either at their kind of end date or will be soon, and it sounded like maybe that was about 20 years currently. Um, if you could add like maintenance costs into that, that would be helpful as well.
Sure. Yeah. We can, as we're developing that, the more detailed cost estimate, we can certainly include those things.
Yeah, just, and that is part of our scope of work coming up here for the rest of this year and early next year. We're
Okay.
all the costs associated with the repair replacement of the current capital needs. And then we got the architectural assessment of existing facilities. We're currently doing that sustainability analysis, and then we would do the space needs analysis. So we got a lot of work coming up here. This is the preliminary MEP assessment, and then the costs will come hopefully by our next CCC meeting.
Okay. Well, did anybody else have any questions, I guess, for the group?
I was just curious, was an assessment of air quality part of this process and how that might improve or change with any of these options?
Yeah, we did do some high level assessment. We did do some high level assessment on air quality because I know it has been a noted issue in some of the buildings. So the it is, I didn't get a chance to go through it in detail in the report, but I am recommending some air treatment, whether it be in the form of an ionization or UV for any recirculated air. So we can provide that, as well as increasing the level of outside air, the quantity of outside air, so bringing in more fresh air is something that could certainly help with that. And because we're bringing it through an energy recovery ventilator, we don't have to reheat or recool the air as much as we would if we don't have that type of system. So yeah, we did look at that, and those are kind of the two recommendations we're providing.
I was also wondering about the cost information too, because it's part of the big picture, and I guess we didn't have that coming into this, knowing exactly when that would become available. But of course, and like Justin mentioned, the payoff period as well, that would factor into what level would be pursued, I'm sure. I've got a question about the geothermal field in general, because looking at the diagram and thinking about what could be an option and I don't know enough about the understructure of roadways, but is there even a possibility of combining the two and closing off the street and creating a plaza in between and getting more space for the geothermal field as a result? Just something to think about.
Yeah, I had not considered that. But if doing, making that modification to the roadway is an option that would improve, it would give us more area for the geothermal field, which may.
Yeah, and that's part of it too, is that we're looking at buildings and the different options, but we're also looking at the side effect for the outdoor space and how that involves. That would be. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Abby, we are running up against the hour. You had one last agenda item, and that was to discuss the upcoming meetings. Do we want to briefly go through that?
Very briefly, next month, we're meeting on October 4th. Staff this meeting, so I'll get a conference with that time. And that meeting is going to focus on lessons learned from the tours, and we received the summaries from the Milwaukee area tours from Paul, so I will send those around to you all. And then after the lessons learned, we're planning to do walkthroughs of each of the three city buildings. I think we had originally talked about having another remote tour option that date, but we realized that with the new makeup of the committee, many of you have not actually been through all of the areas of the building, so we thought that might be more beneficial for that meeting. And then on Wednesday, November 20th, that's the meeting that we moved up by a week and a day to avoid Thanksgiving. And the consultants will likely be back for that meeting, but the topic is to be determined on where they are with their work products. And then you will get the month of December off. So those are the next 3 weeks.
Great, thanks. With that, I think we're right at the hour, so I would like to adjourn this meeting of the CCC. Thanks, everyone.